Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about a Reddit post over here by Chrysay that I found pretty interesting. So Chrysay over here made a small rant or complaint about the game and basically listed out the pros and the cons of Blade and Soul at the moment and what should be done in order to fix the game more or less. So I'll be reading each point and giving my thoughts on that, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the video. I will have gameplay of a different game, probably of Teamfight Tactics or something in the background so that you have something entertaining to watch, but if you don't want to watch that, it's perfectly fine. You can simply just minimize this video and just have the audio playing. So without further ado, let's begin. So Chrysay here starts off with the positive points and the things that NC West have done right. So the first point is premium. Premium has become a lot better. We do get all of the perks that have been unlocked the moment you get premium. We used to have different stages of premium based on how much N coin you've spent, and they changed it now that the moment you get premium, you get unlimited win stride, you get access to your bank, and there's a lot of nice perks that we get immediately just by unlocking premium. And another thing that we get is also the outfit stamps, which we can pick up 20 every month, and that way we can mail our outfits, which is also very, very nice. The login rewards as well as the daily dash has been improved greatly, which is pretty nice, especially with a lot of our events now. The login rewards do give us event currency so that it makes it a little bit easier for us to get more oils as well as other materials which you might need. The daily dash has been improved as well, so now when you finish a full circle you do get a pet pack, which is also very nice considering that a lot of us don't really upgrade our pet aura, mainly because it's awfully expensive, and now by giving us a means to get pet packs, especially for free, is actually pretty nice. Next is the raid loot system. Got rid of the RNG. This was a very, very nice change. It came in like almost 6 months ago. Was basically we are able to pick whatever element, ring or earring that we needed. I still remember back in the day when I had to farm for my fire earring and my fire ring from Black Tower. It took me almost 8 weeks just to get a fire ring because the drop rate was random. Sometimes they'll drop a wind ring and you're like, oh crap, no one in our raid needs a wind ring, what do we do? But now it's a lot better. Now they just drop a treasure chest, you open it up and you pick what you want. So there's no more raid RNG because that was a very big deal back in the day. Elemental gear is somewhat gone. So basically we have lost elemental damage and it's now just regular damage, and it has become a lot easier. The only downside is switching your bracelet is still rather expensive, but for your ring and your earring, switching those, the cost has gone significantly down. It used to be you'd have to level up a separate earring and a separate ring in order to test out different builds. So having elemental gear removed and just having the ability to switch by using one Moonstone Crystal or one Elysian Crystal is definitely a very, very nice change. There's the introduction of Psyches, collection stats, challenge mode, as well as more AP achievements, which made hard mode a little bit more relevant. On this point, I do agree that it is nice. However, in my personal opinion, I think they haven't done enough yet. Psyches are obviously a good driving force for min-maxing. However, I don't think it's enticing enough to make people do hard mode. I still have a strong belief that in order to make people do hard mode, you're going to need to double the gold reward. If you double the gold reward, then a lot more people are going to be enticed to do hard mode. You need to make something a lot more attractive to the player base in order for them to attempt hard mode, because it does take a little bit longer to do it and it is a lot more mechanically intensive. So I do recommend NC West to look at the numbers and think about it and see what the players want. So as we all know, the players do want more access to more materials, they need more gold, as well as some rare materials such as sacred oils and pet packs. And maybe if they increase the drop rate for these 3 items to a certain extent, it might entice people to try hard mode again. As for collection stats, I have no problem with that, it's great. As for challenge mode, I also have no problem with that, I also think that's great. And AP achievement definitely is something that it has given a lot of motivation to a lot of players to try to do hard mode, to try to learn hard mode. But I still think that the number of runs you need to do is a little bit excessive, but it's not a bad thing. It keeps people engaged into the game. Next thing was the change to dynamic boxes. Yeah, I quite like the new change to dynamic boxes. Now having the ability to get silver scales as well as blue scales or the onyx scales are definitely a nice change, because those were very difficult to farm up before, and now having them drop from dynamic boxes allows people who are spamming hard modes, who are spamming normal modes, for their belt or for whatever accessory they need. At least they're farming a different resource while hoping for that rare drop for the belt or for the accessory that they need. The next point is evolve stones being somewhat farmable now. Unfortunately, the only reliable way to farm evolve stones is probably MSP or Midnight Sky Petal Plains. Personally, I don't really like running MSP that much. To me, it is quite boring, but it is a reliable way to at least farm for some materials, so I understand that it has made a lot of people happy. Another change was they removed Awakened Profane Stone like items, which was pretty annoying back in the day. In order to break through your weapons, you needed this Profane Awakened Stone, which served no purpose other than being a gold sink or a material sink. So now by removing this, it allows a lot more people to upgrade their gear a lot easier, a lot faster. The next pro is we've got a lot more inventory space, which is very nice, especially if you are premium. You get a full tab of just more inventory space, which is very, very nice. So we're quite happy to see that. The next point is the way the game handles crashes and disconnects for Battlegrounds got better. So I can't comment on this because I don't do Battlegrounds, so I don't know what's changed here. So the next point is they did remove the anti-cheat system in the game, which was causing a lot of performance issues. It did allow the game to run on less resources. However, it didn't really solve the performance issues. There are still pretty bad performance issues right now, but at least they are trying to solve this issue. And they really should, because it does impact the game quite a bit. So those are the pros. Next, let's talk about the cons. The first point they wrote was Arena. Arena is quite a disaster for PvP right now. The whole purpose of Arena was that gear doesn't matter and everything would be balanced and equalized, so everyone would be playing on an equal playing field so that it's fair. But the issue was because of the awakening classes and the skill changes and so forth and so on, it's kind of made it where certain classes hard counter others, and it's become very imbalanced. It's kind of like if I'm a summoner and I meet up to a different class which counters me, I pretty much have no chance of winning unless the other player doesn't know what they're doing. Again, over here, I don't do Arena, so I don't have much say in it. However, I do understand that there are certain classes that just hard counter others, which is quite a big issue. It's kind of made it unfair. This leads up to the second point, which is Battlegrounds. So Battlegrounds over here has always been a difficult place to balance because Battlegrounds gear does matter. So if you have super high gear, you literally could one-shot people. And so again, I don't have much to say about this because I am not qualified to talk about this because I don't do this content. So the next point over here is PvE. So I can talk a lot about this mainly because that is the only content that I do. I only do PvE content in Blade and Soul. And so the noticeable change was with the Awakening patch. The Awakening patch changed a lot of skills and changed a lot of people's rotations. And the complaint that Chryse has over here was it dumbed down the class. A good example would be the Wind KFM. The Wind KFM, you're pretty much the most ideal rotation is to just turn on simple mode and hold down right mouse button, and that is pretty much your ideal way to min-max your DPS. Obviously, if you have high ping, that's a different story, but we're just talking about if you have zero ping and you have like the best computer in the world, you pretty much just want to run simple mode to min-max your damage. And that doesn't seem like a very fun gameplay. The Awakening patch has kind of simplified a lot of the classes and kind of made them a lot more easy, where it's just like spam 2 to 3 of your main damage skills and that's about it. The rest of the skills is just wait when they're off cooldown. Maybe they're needed because they're to proc your badge or to proc your bracelet, and it's kind of been a little bit dumbed down. So this part I do agree with Chryse, where it is a little bit simple. However, I do feel like that's what a lot of players actually want. They want simple gameplay. But then again, this is very subjective. as long as people are happy with the awakening classes, and I feel like people are, mainly because they are doing more damage. The more damage people do, the more happy they get. I feel like that seems to be a common trend. It might be a subjective thing, I might be totally off the mark, but from my own personal experience, I feel like people care more about their damage over anything else in this game. So if they're doing more damage because of the awakening patch, I feel like most of the player base is happy. So the next thing is about progression or about gearing. So NC West or NC Soft have become a little bit lazy on gearing. It's become all about psyches and unity stones, which is kind of disheartening because it used to be about the gear itself. It used to be about the soul shields. It used to be about learning your rotations and getting new playstyles. A good example would be when we were using MSP Soul Shields and transitioned into Raven Soul Shields, our rotation changed for most classes. When we went from Raven Soul Shields into Vortex Temple Soul Shields, again, our rotation also changed. And this was because every time we got a new set of Soul Shields, it would amplify certain skills, it would give us new damage multipliers, and thus it allowed players to experiment and to see what the new best rotation is. And I feel like that was what made the game so exciting. It was whenever we got a new piece of gear, we're like, wow, okay, what skill does this amplify? Does that change our rotation? Are we able to do something differently than what our old playstyle was? And usually it would allow us to do that in order to maximize more damage, in order to do something cool and reward us with higher DPS. However, now with the Psyches and Unity Stones, it's rather lazy because it doesn't give us any new skill multipliers. It's always been, oh, you get a little bit more crit chance, you get a little bit more crit damage. Like, I understand it's easier to balance those things, but at the current state of the game, honestly, there's not much to balance. You might as well just go all out and focus on one path. Focus all in on PvE content, and then just scrap and totally redo PvP and just have them separate. Just when you go into PvP, maybe you just have like the arena stats. It's like, okay, these are the arena ratios. Maybe Rumblebees won't do 100% damage when you're in arena, or when you're in battlegrounds. Maybe it only does 70% damage instead of 100. And they should just do that. Just have it absolutely separate, where PvE content, people can feel strong, people can progress, and people can just have fun and mess around. Because PvE content, you're not hurting anyone. It's not as competitive. You're basically just fighting NPCs and you're fighting bots basically. And it's better to just let the players have fun in PvE. While in PvP, it's competitive. You want to have an even playing field in PvP because it's player versus player. There's another person who's playing on the other side. There are winners and there are losers. So you want to have an even playing field where everyone has an equal chance of winning and losing. And then if we're talking about battlegrounds, that's a whole nother can of worms. Again, I'm not qualified to talk about battlegrounds, and I feel like battlegrounds is a very difficult thing to balance because of gear. Because if everyone's gear does matter and does play a part in it, what can you do if someone is fully maxed out gear and someone has no gear? It's very difficult to balance that. You can't have the person with no gear have an equal chance against a guy who has spent years gearing up to becoming max gear. That's very unfair to the person who's invested so much time into the game. And so Battlegrounds has just always been a kind of clown fiesta where it's just messy. It's just very difficult to balance. And I think NC Soft knows this, but I don't think they have a solution right now. Maybe let me know in the comments below if you guys have a solution, and maybe we can try to make up a proposal or something for NC Soft, because personally I also don't have a solution for this. Other than this, another thing about progression or about gearing has always been about the drop rate. The drop rate for certain items and legendary gear has been pretty low, especially with the newer items, such as the new belt from Warp Citadel. Like, I've run that dungeon at least 300 times already, and I've seen the belt drop maybe once, maybe twice at most, which is quite a low drop rate. I feel like this discourages a lot of players because times have changed. A lot of players aren't as willing to commit that much time into a MMO. A lot of players don't want to farm the same thing over and over hours on end, unless they are rewarded something else other than for the runs. a good change that they did was having the achievement. So it's like if you do run it 100 times, you can just buy the belt right off the bat. I feel like this is a very good addition. However, other than that, I feel like they need to make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more incentive for people to run the same dungeon over and over. Maybe have the Merchant of Wonder spawn a little bit more often and have more variety of items that they can sell. Or maybe have the drop rate for certain items increased so that people get more excited about it and more incentivized to run this dungeon over and over because they need certain materials. A good example would be for Warp Citadel, maybe increase the drops for onyx scales, since a lot of people need onyx scales, especially when they start heading towards their end game where they need to upgrade a lot of their gear as well as do awakenings, because it does require a lot of onyx scales. So maybe just do something to give players more incentive, make it more interesting for them to run the same dungeon over and over. The next point that Crises has over here is about the merchant. So the Merchant of Wonder, I do agree that it needs more variety, and other than variety, the items that the merchant sells needs to be balanced a bit. Right now we can safely say that like 85%, 90% of the items that the merchant sells is pretty much useless, is pretty much garbage. As much as I'd like to say that, oh, at least it sells moonstones and Elysian crystals and items that people need, the prices are really out of whack. They really need to look at the market, see the average price, and balance the prices for these materials that the merchant is selling. There are certain items that seem to be pretty good, like when they sell evolve stones, the merchant, when he sells evolve stones, it's a good price, but I feel like they need to make it more enticing, more interesting. Especially for a merchant, which is an RNG spawn, people should be excited when the Merchant of Wonder spawns, not going, oh, it spawned again, I wonder if it's good or bad. You know, it kind of defeats the purpose of having that excitement. People need to be excited, need to feel like, oh, there's gonna be something good that I want to buy whenever an RNG merchant pops up. So this does need to be reworked. The next point is about gems. Gems is definitely in a very weird spot right now, because gems is a very good way to boost your AP, especially now that a lot of people are like, oh, you need like 1.5k, 1.7k AP in order to do X dungeon, Y dungeon. I feel like AP is a very easy way to gauge if someone's doing enough damage or not, but it's in a very awkward situation right now. I feel like there needs to be a different system. Like what some people have suggested was at least a gear score type of system, where it was just like, okay, you have your, let's say you have your bracelet, you have your Aransu Mystic Badge, so by having these two items you have a gear score of X, Y, and Z, and then based off your weapon, based off your gems, there should be some sort of system that gives you a gear score, so people know, like, oh, okay, this person's gonna be doing around this much damage, so we can take them. And I feel this is kind of important. But then again, you could always make the counter argument that the game is so ping dependent that even if someone has a very high gear score, they might not actually be able to pull off the DPS due to their ping. A good example would be myself. I should be pulling off at least 2 million DPS, but no, I'm only pulling 1.6 because of my ping. It is a counter argument, but they do need to do something about it to allow more accessibility for newer players. Maybe beginner mode will fix this issue, I'm not sure. I feel like a lot of these problems aren't actually NC Soft or NC West's issue, but I feel like it's a community issue on people are just expecting to have fast runs and they just want to blast through everything fast, and I don't blame them, because personally myself, I also am the same. I like to run through everything quickly, smoothly, without any hiccups, without any wipes, and just move on with my day. But I feel like something needs to be done about this, because if we don't do anything about it, what incentive is there for new players to play this game? Or are there any new players playing this game? Especially when Unreal Engine 4 comes out, I know that a lot of people are going to come back into this game to give it a shot, give it a second try. Or even sooner, when the Archer comes out, more people are going to come in and try it again. But if they come in and they see that the community is just so toxic or so elitist, and they don't have the damage because they're on their fresh new Archer, or they're new to the game, and they can't run any dungeons because no one's willing to accept them, it kind of pushes the new players away. and then people will just start complaining saying, oh, this game is dead, there's no player base, blah blah blah. So it's kind of our responsibility as the community, as the player base, to sort of brainstorm a solution and then maybe contact the community managers or have a contact window where we can discuss these things openly and transparently and try to find a solution together. I feel like this is a very important point where NC West as well as the community can work together and try to find a solution for. The next point over here is the game performance. The game performance is definitely one of the biggest issues that I have with this game. It should not run so poorly. Again, as I said, I put a lot of hopes on Unreal Engine 4. However, I really do think that we should have some band-aid solutions right now to at least minimize the poor performance. You know, we need some band-aid solutions to at least let the game survive until Unreal Engine 4. And then there's also that lingering fear that if Unreal Engine 4 doesn't deliver, and let's say that Unreal Engine 4 comes out, we get a huge surge of population coming into the game, but it doesn't really solve our performance issues, then that would be a very big blow to Blade and Soul, especially for Blade and Soul in the West. And so I am a little bit concerned, a little bit worried about that, but I really do hope that NC West and NC Soft can be a little bit more transparent and let us know what exactly they're working on or what exactly they're doing to increase the performance, to increase the just to make the game better, you know, because this game is really, really fun. I really do hope that they do something to make the game look and feel as good as it is, as it deserves to be. So the next point is balance patches, or just patches in general. NC West has done an okay job. You know, we do get a patch around once a month, around once every 3 weeks, so it's not too bad. I just wish that the community managers would be a little bit more engaging with us, maybe just hosting more events in game and just be more vocal about things so that we can, you know, just get to know each other a little bit more, just so that we have a person to relate to, a person to talk to. At the moment, it's pretty much radio silence. There has been a few instances, especially with Cyan. I know Cyan is trying very hard and kind of reaching out with the community, but I feel like he's been burned a couple times and been like roasted a couple times, where he doesn't really want to reach out to the community anymore, because every time he's tried, it's always lashback at him, which is, you know, if you get hurt several times, obviously you're going to try to avoid it. So I think it is partially the community's fault. I feel like we need some sort of creators club or something to get all of the streamers, the content creators, the influencers to come together, meet each other, as well as have a good talk with the community managers and really have a transparent means of communication where we can simply just ask the questions we need, give the feedback we have, as well as have a week-to-week update on, hey, what can we do to make the game better? What are the problems we've been having with this current event? What problems have we been having in PvP and Battlegrounds and stuff like that? And what can we do to fix it? Like maybe Twizzy, who streams a lot, maybe he can give a lot more input, especially on the KFM since he mains that. And then maybe we can have other people who PvP on other classes, they can give their input and we can brainstorm together and kind of find a solution together and then make a proposal for NC Soft's team and see what can be done there. Leaving the community in radio silence is probably one of the worst things you can do, because a lot of players have been losing interest in the game. Like, a lot of players just don't play Blade and Soul, don't stream Blade and Soul as much anymore because they've lost interest in the game. They've kind of given up hope that this amazing game is ever gonna be fixed. And so I really do hope that if any of the community managers are watching this video, please just reach out to any of the influencers, the streamers, the content creators, and just see what can be done. Next thing is fishing. As for fishing, it was a good idea. I've never been a person who really enjoyed fishing content, but I really do agree that the items or the rewards could have been handled much better. you should make the rewards of fishing a lot more enticing. Like when I saw the Korean version of fishing, it made sense. It was like, hey, you guys can do fishing every day and get 10 moonstones or 20 moonstones or so forth and so on. And so, doing fishing is another means to get materials. But at the current state, there's no real purpose in doing fishing other than for achievements. I don't really understand. I don't really understand why fishing was handled so poorly. Another point over here is the focus on ults. So that means like having a second character or a third character. I feel like Blade and Soul does have that feeling where it's like you need to have multiple characters in order to maximize this event if you are free to play, in order to get at these many sacred oils, in order to get these materials, so forth and so on. I feel like they really shouldn't do that. They really need to make it so people who only have one character and only want to play one character, they should be able to reap the rewards by just investing the same amount of time as someone who has multiple characters, instead of having it forced upon the player base to have multiple characters to do the event multiple times. It's kind of counterintuitive in my opinion. So let's say they remove the limit on the currency that you can farm, the event currency. Let's use the current event as an example. So the ice cubes, right? So we get a bunch of ice cubes for completing your daily challenge, and we also get a bunch of ice cubes from doing your event dungeons. So let's say they removed the limit and they said that, okay, you can farm as many ice cubes as you want by just doing the event dungeon as many times as you want, and it'll never lock you out. And you can also do daily challenge as many times as you want, and you'll also get event currency. So let's say people go crazy on their mains and they farm the event dungeon like 10 times a day, and then they do the daily challenge 10 times a day, and so they've got maybe like 400 ice cubes. So what would stop them from abusing it, where they would just buy out everything from the event shop, as well as just start hoarding a bunch of materials and inflating the market because there's a huge surge of supply? Actually, just from thinking about it, I feel like they could do that. NC West could do that by allowing people to just farm unlimited amount of event resource, but limiting the amount of each item from the event shop that they can buy a week, just like what they've done with the Sacred Vials. That way everyone who wants to play the event or wants to play or who wants to participate can buy everything from the shop if they're crazy and they really want to put in the time and the effort. But you're only able to buy so much every single week. This actually might be a good idea, or maybe a possible solution to solve the issue on where people are forced to make multiple ults, which they might not really enjoy playing, and maybe they'll just be able to focus on their mains and still maximize the event and get what they want. So do let me know down in the comments section below if you think this is actually a good solution. I just came to this realization while talking about it too. So this idea is a very rough idea, but maybe we can refine it and make it better, and then see what we can do by talking to NC West. I really do hope NC West is still okay with open communication. Talking about open communication, this leads up to the last point over here, is not communicating. I feel like the community right now, as well as NC West in general, we don't have a open line of communication. Like, there are the live streams, and then there's the occasional Twitter posts, and then of course there's the forums. But other than that, there's not much communication going on between the community and NC West. I feel like we should have a set thing for the community managers to do. Maybe every week there should be just an open panel. And if the open panel gets too toxic, or if there are too many trolls, so forth and so on, maybe limit it. Limit it to maybe only the content creators, the streamers, and the influencers, where they don't mess around and they do ask serious questions and have serious topics to discuss. I feel like this would be another approach, and then that way at least the community will have a window of communication. Let's say that people want some changes in raids, or maybe they want changes in dungeons, then They could let me know in my videos comment sections below, or they could let Ekijin know, and then at the end of the week maybe we would sit down with Cyan or with Hime or with someone who has the power or the authority to relay all this information to someone who actually can make the changes. I feel like this would be a very productive and hopefully a very efficient way to get changes done, or at least get more information on why certain things aren't changed or why certain things are changed. That way the community has a lot more information about what's going on in the game and will be slightly more knowledgeable. Like, leaving us in the dark, all we can do is speculate, which doesn't really help anyone. It's kind of just, yeah, I think they're gonna do this because XYZ, but I'm not sure. But just having like facts, like saying like, okay, so this is what NC West gave us. This is their official reply for these changes. So this is why they can't fix PvP. This is why we need these changes in Battlegrounds. And this is why they took away the badge exchange system. And just having a very concrete answer to all of our questions will just cut out so much drama in this game. There's just so much drama, unnecessary drama in this game, and I really want to just iron it out and just make it easier. Maybe we can use this as a shout out to Sage. Like, Sage, you've been the new producer for quite some time now. Why hasn't there been a producer's letter? Why hasn't there been any news about how things are going, what changes are coming, what has been changed? Like, maybe you could reach out to me and talk to me about it, or just talk to someone about it, or maybe post an official letter or something. I really want to have an open and transparent line of communication where we can just talk about ideas, where I can gather the community's feedback, give it to you, present it to you guys in a clear and concise manner, where then you guys can also reply to my questions and let me know, okay, we can't do this because XYZ. We did this because of XYZ. And that way it's a lot easier to just calm everyone down. Instead of everyone saying, oh, the game is dying, the game is dead, look at the numbers, look at the statistics. Like, we don't need all this unnecessary drama. Just give us the facts, we'll present the facts, and it will solve a lot of speculation. And so I really do beg you guys at NC West, please just reach out to us. If you want to reach out to the entire community, that's great, please do so. That way everyone can chime in and give their own opinion. But if you find that too overwhelming, too much pressure, too much negativity, then reach out to the few people who are willing to filter out the negativity, who are willing to put in the hard work to help your company, to help Blade and Soul as a game become better. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. It kind of ended up with me ranting as well. I hope you guys didn't get too discouraged by my little rant or my little speech over there, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I would appreciate a subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you want to go that extra mile, please consider becoming a member, as it really does help the channel out. Speaking about members, I'd like to thank Dante-sama, Leishi, Lina Ren, ST Sintu, and Key for becoming members and helping out my channel. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
What can I say except you're welcome? For the heals, the boosts, the